hope and joy in life. And it's set in this very picturesque village in Tamil Nadu. The film shows us that there is no bar, friendships are bucket lists, and that sometimes impending death really brings forth in us a new zest of life. There is life staring at us just as we approach that too. So welcome, Madhumita.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Welcome, Vishal. Thank you for being here. So I wanted to say Madhumita is a very accomplished and well-known director in the Tamil film industry. She has made some excellent films, and if you get a chance, I want you guys to see them. Valame Trayo and Kolkolea Mundarika is a couple of those films that she is well known for. She was born in Chennai and then lived in Indonesia, grew up in Indonesia, and studied in Singapore, and then came to the US to do her master's. Um, while she was in Singapore, her short film Abstract Identity won the BBC Award in the Best in the World category. And she was just a student at the time. And she will tell us in the course of today's conversation what that film is all about. And while she was here in the US, she worked on the Pirates of the Caribbean 3. So hear about her experiences about that as well. Now, you pick up on social issues and she weaves them beautifully into stories that celebrate life. So it's all about hope and life. Madhumita has a Cincinnati connection too, because she's married to Vijay Venkatraman, who grew up here. He's a freelance editor and they now live in India. So welcome, Madhumita. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. That was such a lovely introduction. Thank you very much. And yes, any film festival is always close to our heart because I think it gives you such a variety of audience as opposed to the regular theatrical Indian audience that you get to see. And you get to talk to a lot more people. So filmmakers like us really enjoy traveling to film festivals. Unfortunately, we couldn't travel to Indian Film Festival of Cincinnati, even though that's almost home. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here and thank you for having us.
Thank you. Madhumita, I understand from everything that I read that you were inspired to make this film by something your grandfather said to you, and that little grain of thought sort of blossomed into this beautiful film that you've given us. But then there's a larger story here. This film has resonated with all ages, right? What do you think? Why do you think that is? And what do you think attributed to the success of this film? I mean, this film was a hit, not just at the film festivals, it was a hit everywhere, even when it was released, right?
Yes.
So that's my question for you today. What would you attribute the success of the film to? And why do you think this resonated with just about everyone?
I think, any filmmaker that tells you that they predicted the success or the failure of their film is absolutely lying. I will tell you that because I don't think there's anybody out there who can predict the success or failure of their film. Most of us do put in our everything. We get consumed by the stories. We get consumed by the characters and all of that when we're writing a film or even when we're shooting it. And then when it all does come together, you do have an idea. All you can kind of predict is, were you able to tell the story you wanted to tell? I don't think it's possible for any of us to predict whether it would be a box office success or how the audience would take to it. But having said that, I think in hindsight, after receiving the kind of response that we received for KD, be it at film festivals, be it in theaters, be it at Netflix, even today, and it's been 6 months since KD has been out on Netflix, I still get at least 10 messages on my social media every day talking to me about what a great film and KD is.
Yeah, so tell me about that. And in hindsight, tell me, I mean, what do you think? Why do you think it resonated with so many people across ages?
I think it had a very, especially during this lockdown, I think anywhere you go, people are always looking for something hopeful. People are looking for, the slightest tinge of hope that they can find. And I think Katie provided them that. It was light, it was breezy, it spoke about a lot of important issues, but it did not linger on them long enough to make you feel overwhelmed by it. In fact, one of the techniques that we were very clear about doing in the screenplay was that we would talk about an emotional scene, or the scene would be slightly emotional, and just when it crosses that fine line of getting a little overwhelming, we would break it open with a comedy, break it open with a humorous line or a sarcastic line, and we used Kuti a lot for that,
Ah,
because I think as a character, Katie's character is someone who's depressed in life and who's just run away from the only home he's ever known, and for him to feel those emotions, it's all real, it's all fair that he feels all of those emotions. But then you also want the audience to not get overwhelmed with the drama or the melancholy. And the idea at that point was a very conscious effort to break that melancholy with a bit of sarcasm or wit, and that came from Kutti in that matter. And I think also the other thing is everybody had something to like in the film, be it the people who loved the biryani scenes. I mean, the resonance with food, or be it the kind of sarcasm that Kutti brought on, or the for those that wanted to feel the emotion, the feel good factor.
right.
I think there was something in it for everyone, and I think that's what. And it was simple. I think the best part that we managed to achieve, and again, it's something in hindsight, is that it ended up being a very simple film that wasn't very difficult for people to understand, regardless of whether you knew the language or not.
Correct.
And I think that had a major part to play.
It was an allegory on life itself. And Anita Raturi has a quick question for you along the same lines. So, Anita, go ahead. I can't hear you, Anita. You have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Meeta, I absolutely loved the movie, and
Thank you.
I had several questions. I mean, there was so much in the movie. One, I think you have addressed was like, how did you get a popular audience to really, follow up on the movie? And another question was the playfulness between the two main characters. Did that come from you, or did it come from your observation of people around you?
I think one thing and like Rati actually said, it has a lot. The old Katie's character has a lot to do with how I've seen my grandfather. My grandfather, that is my mother's dad. He was, the kind of person that was very easygoing. He used to be in the army, and he's gone through a lot of difficulties in life. But then he never let that child in him ever leave. Yeah, and especially that child started coming out a lot more as he crossed his 70s, and he started wanting the simplest things in life, and he became a child himself. And I think that holds true for a lot of people who cross a certain age post retirement. And I used to see him, he used to like get excited. I used to see his face like go up in smiles when I used to buy him ice cream, and little simple pleasures like that. And that's when I noticed that what we take for granted in life, these simple pleasures that we take for granted, suddenly at that age becomes extremely important for them. And that was the idea with Katie. I wanted to ensure that Katie's, even though he had faced a lot of trauma in his life, he still had that child in him. And this child, who was 8 years old, helped bring out that child in him. And that's what causes the, chemistry between the two. As far as how much of it is me, well, I think a lot of it, like I said, came from my grandfather, inspired by him. But also, we did for the technical aspects of it, it, we did a workshop of about 15 days between KD and Kutti, where we just let them be. We allowed them to spend time together. We would just morning, noon, and night. They would eat together. They would sleep together. They would just spend a lot of time together. And we tried to do that just to ensure that they were comfortable around each other. And that was really crucial to bring on screen, because no matter, see, the problem is also that Mura sir, who played KD, is a theater actor. And he's extremely, his body language and everything is extremely loud, and he's very bold and, very open in that sense. Whereas Vishal, if you see, he's never acted in front of camera before. This is his first film. So he's never been in front of a camera. He doesn't know how to act in front of camera. He knows how to be himself, but there are certain elements of him that I wanted to bring out in Kutti, but there were certain elements that I wanted to improve for Kutti. So it involved a lot of that workshop, about 15-20 days, where we all spent time together. We all got used to around having cameras around us, because I think the first challenge that Vishal faced was that, he would always be conscious of the fact that the camera was there. He would just turn around and start looking and performing to the camera, which is not what you want, which takes away the natural essence of it. So I think it was that 15 days that really helped them get to know each other. It helped me get to know them, because I think when you're working with first-time actors, or you're working with actors who are extremely experienced, like Mura sir also, it's really a learning curve for the director as well, for you to understand how they function. Because direction is not just about getting them to do what you want them to do, but for a director to understand how they function. And for example, with Kutti, I needed to know what would make him cry, what would make him angry, what would make him laugh, what would make him sad, and things like that. So it was as much a learning experience for me as it was for them, and bringing them together. So I think that, I hope I answered that.
Yeah, and that must have been such a challenge. Go ahead, Anita.
I mean, you answered it perfectly. And there were two short questions which have big answers. One was, I loved your motif of the food, and you talked about that, how people love the eating of the biryani, because I related to that. I love biryani. And the other one was the death ritual that you in that was the sort of the motivating reason for the elder gentleman to run away. What was that?
I think the ritual was something that I came across in a journal about. I mean, I never knew such a ritual existed until about 4 or 5 years ago, and I read about the ritual, and it was just a tidbit news. And then I did a lot of research about it. But then when it's about death, then the film invariably becomes extremely dark. So I wanted to find a lighter note to the film, and which is how I came across. I spoke to a lot of people from Virudhunagar. I spoke to a lot of people from that belt who still today perform that ritual. And for me, that character taking off from that, the film, if you see, there are plenty of films about Talai Kootal specifically. In fact, there's another film called Baram, which is a more serious take on the same ritual. But I think what was happening was I wanted to ensure that the death ritual was something that KD would take off from. The rest of the film is not about the death ritual. Yes, it is about that character, coming to terms with death. But it's not about the ritual alone, and that's what I wanted to make the film more about life by showing that someone who ran away from death wanted to live life. So that was the purpose of it. And it was a good arc for a character also, something he was so afraid of and ran away from at the beginning of the film. Eventually, when he has to act as a corpse, he does do a fantastic job of it and is not afraid of it anymore. And that was the arc.
That was a wonderful answer. Thank you so much.
And
Thank you.
Vishal is, I wanted to ask Vishal as well, was he afraid of Katie in the beginning, Moo in the beginning, or how did, what?
Vishal, so Vishal will try and his best to answer, but he's more comfortable with Tamil.
He can answer.
Yeah, then I will translate. Yeah. Vishal?
Hi ma'am.
Vishal கேக்குதா? Hi, எப்படி இருக்க?
நல்லா இருக்கோம்.
Okay. அவங்க கேக்குறாங்க. எல்லாருக்கும் ஹாய் சொல்லு.
Hi.
Hi, Vishal.
He's grown really tall.
I know, right?
I can't see his picture, but maybe I can pick it up here. But I wanted to say Vishal bagged the Best Actor award for this film. So congratulations, Vishal.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Rati, the interesting thing was he was nominated against Ayushmann Khurrana, Ranveer Singh, and Vicky Kaushal, and he won
Wow.
Best Actor in Mumbai. So yeah, it was the first time Mr. Manoj
Oh,
Bajpayee
you
gave
work
him the
7 days a
award.
week, Chintu?
Congratulations. I mean, it was awesome. Huh? It was very good,
What?
Vishal. Very, very good.
Thank you.
So, so Vishal, were you afraid of fading in the beginning when you said how to act, since you've never acted before?
விஷால் அவங்க என்ன கேக்குறாங்கன்னா மூரா ஐயாவோட நடிக்கிறதுக்கு உனக்கு பயமா இருந்துச்சா எப்படி வந்து அந்த பயம் எப்படி வந்து அந்த பயத்தை தாண்டி வந்த உனக்கு முதல் தடவை கேமரால நடிக்கிறதுக்கு எப்படி இருந்துச்சுன்னு கேக்குறாங்க நீ தமிழ்ல சொல்லு நான் அவங்களுக்கு டிரான்ஸ்லேட் பண்றேன்
பயம்லாம் இல்ல மேம்
பயம்லாம் இல்லையா
உங்க பாட்டா கூட நடிச்ச மாதிரி இருந்துச்சு
ஓகே ஓகே நீ பேசாத போது மியூட் பண்ணிக்கோ ஏன்னா மத்த சவுண்ட் எல்லாம் அங்க கேக்குது நீ பேசும்போது மியூட் ஆஃப் பண்ணிக்கோ ஓகே so he's saying that he was not afraid because he felt like he was acting with his own grandfather.
Okay.
That's cool.
And how did he feel about taking directions and everything?
Vishal, நான் உனக்கு சொல்லி கொடுத்தது எப்படி இருந்ததுன்னு கேக்குறாங்க
என்ன கஷ்டம் இருந்தது அதுல ஆக்டிங்ல என்ன கஷ்டம் இருந்தது கொஞ்சம் சொல்லுங்க தமிழ் அவ்வளவு நல்லா இல்ல ஆனா பேசலாம் கொஞ்சம்
your Tamil is fine.
Thank you.
சொல்லு விஷால்
சூப்பரா சொல்லி கொடுத்தாங்க
இல்ல பட் உனக்கு நடிக்கும் போது என்ன தோணுச்சு ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டே ஷூட்டிங் வந்தல அப்ப ஷூட்டிங் வந்த போது முதல் தடவை கேமரா முன்னாடி நிக்கிற முதல் தடவை நடிக்கிற முதல் தடவை படத்துல நடிக்கிற அப்படிங்கும் போது என்ன ஃபீல் பண்ணின அப்போ
கொஞ்சம் பயமா தான் இருந்துச்சு
ஓகே பட் அந்த பயத்தை எப்படி தாண்டி வந்த
நீங்க எல்லாருமே நம்மளுக்கு அக்கா தம்பி இப்படி பழகிறனால தாண்டி வந்துட்டாங்க
Okay, so he's basically saying that he was initially afraid at first, but then because the entire crew was like a family to him, like sisters and brothers and all of that, then he just got over that fear.
He was able to get over it. I mean, he did such a fabulous job. Is he a naughty kid?
He is. He very much is. So I, one of the things is in the film he plays a vegetarian. Whereas in real life, he loves his meat. He loves his chicken and fish and everything. And the struggle was he would always, during the shot, and we would ensure that the biryani eating scene would be around lunchtime so that, it's easier to shoot. And he would always have to watch Mura sir eating all this mutton biryani when he would be served just dosas. And he would get so frustrated. He's like, why did you have to make me a vegetarian character? And then he would as soon as I called cut, he would ensure that the set boys would have chicken and something left in his room, so he would go and eat that.
That is funny. That is so funny. Oh gosh, we thoroughly enjoyed his acting. I have a question from I'm just looking through here from Anu Mitra. And Anu, would you like to ask your question?
Sure. Madhumita, thank you so much for a great movie.
Thank you.
Shekhar and I really enjoyed seeing it.
Thank you very much.
It was very nicely done. But having seen it last night and not having had the opportunity to think about it very deeply, I felt that you really focused on the emotional experiences and the emotional life of these two characters, KD and Kutti. And the whole movie was about the strength of that experience of being in the moment, of being free and spontaneous and enjoying every prosaic detail of life. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was brilliantly done.
Thank you.
By both of them, and no one overwhelmed the other. KD was as strong as Kutti and vice versa. I felt that the end was very conclusive. It was very sudden. And I was stunned that after all of this, he still gave the money away to his family. And Thirumal writes that maybe it was to signify this, the severing of last ties with his children. I understand that, but I think he had an awakening to his own sense of freedom and own power. So I just felt that his life in this phase was not consistent with the ending. And I'm wondering if you see my point of view, or if you could tell us what you think.
Sure. See, one thing I always respect an audience's perspective, because sometimes once you've made the film, it is entirely up to the audience to take what they want from it. And sometimes it gives you so much insight into how people think, and it might be something that you have never thought of yourself. So that's great. But having said that, as far as consistency in his character is concerned, it is, when I did my research in Virudhunagar, right, when I went and spoke to the people there and found out about the ritual and everything, for me, it was quite shocking, the kind of conversations that I had. Specifically one conversation where this really old gentleman, I think he must be about 85, 90, and he was still in his prime, in the sense that he would go to the fields every day and do his own farming, and he would do all of that. And so when I asked him, if your family decided to do that to you for any reason, would you agree? And he said, yeah, I would agree. And I'm like, but why? You're healthy. I mean, you have no reason to want to go through that. And he said something which resonated with me, which I hoped would carry on for a while, was that he said, the people that we have loved, the people that we have lived for, and this is a very Indian thing, right? Where I think in an Indian culture, the parents eventually end up revolving their life around their kids for the most part. And so what he said was that the day that your kids realize that they've had enough of you, what more do you have to live for? Once your kids have decided that you don't deserve to live in this world, then what more do I have to live for? So I agree to that, and it was a very sad and at the same time profound statement, because that shows to you how much parents in India, or Indian parents in general, and how much of it they just revolve their lives around it. Which is why if you see a lot of parents when they retire, also a lot of, especially those that live in India, I think when we live abroad, we have a better exposure to a social life and friends and things like that. But still, those that live in India, a majority of them, they don't have a life after retirement, because they don't know what to do with their lives, right? And that's what happens to Katie. He's like, is this what you want from me? Here, have it. And it is a way for him to kind of say that, is this all I meant to you? And he's like, but at the end of the day, he's a father as well. He can't see his kids suffering, so he's like, if this, I can still do this towards the end of my life, I can give you away this property to ensure that your troubles are taken care of. I'm happy to do it, because a father is a father even when he's 90, and even when he's threatened by being killed by his own kids, is that I still want to find something I can do for my kids, right? And that's what he does. Of course, the little play towards the end of the film, and I hope all of you have seen it, so there's no spoiler alert, but the fact that he runs away from it is he decides that maybe after he's done everything he can for his kids, maybe it's time that he lived a little for himself too, which is why he goes away.
Very nice, very nice. Well, thank you so much. And of course, all the insights into, the dances and the cultural life and, the plays. It was absolutely fascinating. So thank you for a great.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thirumal, do you have a question for Madhumita and Vishal? Thirumal?
Yeah, just 1 second before I move on to Madhumita. Nagavishal, உங்களோட ஆக்டிங் பார்த்தேன், ரொம்ப ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்துச்சு. பெரிய ஹீரோஸை விட ரொம்ப நல்லா பர்ஃபார்ம் பண்ணியிருந்தீங்க. ரொம்ப சூப்பரா ஆக்டிங் பண்ணியிருந்தீங்க. ஒரு சில இடத்துல எனக்கு ரொம்ப அழுகு வந்துருச்சு. நீங்க ஆக்டிங் பண்றதை பார்த்து அந்த அளவுக்கு ரொம்ப நல்லா பண்ணியிருந்தீங்க. ரொம்ப நல்ல ஆக்டிங் விஷால். Next, Madhumita, I'm sorry, I'm really lost for words because I was actually seeing the movie just now. You wouldn't
Okay.
believe that. I don't know. This movie, I'll tell you the truth. I had downloaded the movie in torrents, and it was sleeping in my laptop for some time now. So suddenly I thought of looking at the movie today, and today afternoon I started watching it, and I was uh, I don't know. I can't put it in words. I was really captivated with the movie. I just couldn't.
ரொம்ப தேங்க்யூ நோ ப்ராப்ளம். கூடி வரைக்கும் ஒரு ஸ்மால் ரிக்வெஸ்ட், டாரண்ட் மட்டும் பண்ணாதீங்க. இட் அஃபெக்ட்ஸ் a
I
lot of
know.
people's lives. அதாவது நிறைய பேருக்கு வந்து இட் இஸ் அபவுட் they think that ப்ரொடியூசர் 100 crores பண்ற இடத்துல 1 கோடி பண்ண போறாரு, அவ்வளவுதானே வித்தியாசம். அப்படி இல்ல. ஒரு
I know.
படம் எடுக்கிறதுக்கு வந்து we people take 2 years and there are so many people's livelihood in it. So please, and இப்போ வந்து நெட்ஃபிளிக்ஸ், அமேசான் நிறைய ஃபெசிலிட்டிஸ் இருக்கு. தியேட்டர்ல
Sure,
போய்
sure,
ஸ்பெண்ட் பண்ணி டிக்கெட் பார்க்கணுங்கிற அவசியம் இல்ல. So that's my
sure.
humble request to you. But other than that,
Sure,
thank you. I'm so glad
sure.
you enjoyed the film. Thank you very
And
much.
one
Madhumita,
more
please
thing.
translate for the rest of our audience as well, if you don't mind.
Sorry. So I said that please, while I appreciate all the accolades and all the feelings that he enjoyed the film, I had a humble request that please do not download torrents, because a lot of people feel that what difference does it make? A producer, instead of making 100 crores, is going to make 10 crores. Please understand, it is not just about the money. We spend literally 2 years of our lives, each of the crew members, we spend days of shoot without sleep, without proper food, staying in the worst of places and all of that, just to bring you that experience. And especially today, with all the platforms that are available for a very reasonable amount, I understand, going to a theater in India has become a very expensive affair, where you have to spend at least 2 grand or 3 grand in order for a family to go watch a film. But having said that, today you have your Amazon, you have your Netflix, you have your Hotstar, you have all these platforms that give it to you at a fraction of that price, which is literally like 200 rupees or 300 rupees. So please do not download torrents, because it kills a lot of producers, it kills a lot of filmmakers and the effort that goes into it. It's just as bad as stealing. So that's what I was trying to request him. It's a very humble request. But yeah, I'm very happy that he really enjoyed the film.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah. Go
my
ahead.
my question is, this same movie, it could have been set in an urban scenario, but you went to the most rural setting, something which even like somebody like even Badiraja couldn't go there. It went to the most rural setting in Tamil Nadu. How did this idea come up to you, and why did you choose such a setting?
Simply because of how that's where it happens in Chennai. Euthanasia or something is not something you can do so easily. Mercy killing is not something that happens in the cities because of stricter rules, police and all of that. And it is only in the rural parts of Tamil Nadu. In fact, it's interesting because this is not just in Tamil Nadu. In Haryana, in UP and in other states, there are different versions of the same ritual. In fact, some are even more traumatic than this one. So I think the idea was to set it in a story and keep it authentic, because by moving this character to a urban city like Chennai or something, you lose the milieu, you lose the authenticity. And
Yeah.
we wanted to keep this film as authentic as possible.
And I was surprised to hear from you too that we have similar practices in Haryana and UP. I was
Yes,
really
in
surprised with
fact, one of the practices, if my memory serves me right, in one of the villages there, what they do is they create a samadhi, a live samadhi, where they pretty much build a 2 foot by 2 foot, structure, and they place the old person inside it alive, and then allow them to kind of, become samadhi on its own. Like this still happens even today.
Hmm. That's shocking. That's really shocking. But I'm glad that films like this are bringing it to light. Thirumal, go ahead.
Yeah, just one last question. So, how much time of research did you do on the script? Was it in years or was it in months or?
Well, when I had read about this ritual, Talekuttalnu or ritual, when I read about it, I think it was I was just beginning to shoot my third film, which was Mune Munavarte. So obviously, this was just one idea that popped up that went into my idea bank and laid there for a while. After I finished Mune Munavarte, which was made in Tamil and Telugu, after that, then I went back. I did a bit of research on it. I don't know how much time I actually took because it was an evolving process. I think I would have easily spent at least about 6 months to a year, just finding information. I think writing the script was a very fast process. Usually, some scripts take 6 months. This script was written in 4 days because there was just so much information inside me. I just had to vomit it out onto a piece of paper. But apart from that, I think the research was about 6 months to a year.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Thirumal. And you're located in India, Thirumal?
Yes, I am. I live in Chennai, but I'm from the villages actually. So I also share that special bond with my grandpa. So I could really connect with the movie. So
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
that's why.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thirumal. We have a question from Sankhya, and I'm going to take that question. Sankhya, go ahead.
Hi, Sankhya from Cincinnati. I know your mom-in-law. So, first of all, beautiful movie. It was very emotional, and hats off to you. I mean, with kids like you making movies that profound, I'm so impressed. When you just said that this is a reality, that things like this happen, you kind of blindsided me, because all this while I thought it was a fictional story of the of your parent samadhi and all. I mean, that was little, my heartbeat actually went up with but like you still learn at any age, I guess.
Of course.
Having said that, I have a small question. So it was such a beautiful innocent, there was so much innocence in the two characters in their interactions, which is just beautiful, given that it was such a serious subject. As it ended, all of us, it ended on such a positive and very optimistic, end, and which was lovely, which is amazing. And each one of us thought, okay, where is Katie going, right? So each one said, where is he going now? So I thought, is he going to Chennai to follow Kutti and make sure he's doing well, or is he going to the tent that he created in that, or is he going for some other adventure? So what did, as you're making the movie, I'm sure you were so into it, I'm sure you thought about everything. What did you imagine it to be?
So I think to give you a little bit of an insight, thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed the film, but to give you a little bit of an insight, that was not the original ending that I had written. The original ending was actually Katie would come back home, he would write off his property to his kids, and then his family would still go ahead and do that to him. And then the last shot of it is him sitting in the backyard, and his family giving him the coconut water, and he would take the coconut water and he would start drinking it, and then it cuts to a black, and all you hear is just him swallowing the coconut water, just the sound of that. And then
I'm glad you didn't have that. I'm glad that was not the ending.
Yes. No, and this is the script that got approved by Saregama. This, everybody loved it. Anybody I sent the script to cried at the end of it. They were like, this is fantastic, this is going to go win all the awards, this is great, and all of that, until a very dear friend of mine raised a very important question that made me think a lot. She said, Madhu, just because since you put that end, does it mean that you are for the ritual? That means that you're propagating that the ritual is right. And I said, what rubbish? Of course not. I mean, I think it's just ridiculous, that ritual on its own. But of course, I'm not propagating it. Of course, I'm not supporting it. And then she said, but that's the end you gave, which also meant that the family, which is equal to, villain in Indian Bollywood or Indian film terms, the villains win. They do manage to kill him in the end. And I had no answer for her. I looked at it. I argued with her and I said, but he does it out of his own free will. It's not like they found him. He willingly comes back home and gives in. He decides that he's lived his life and it's enough. And she said, but still, they won in the end. Why did you make them win? And I went back and I thought about it a lot. And I said, I'm not propagating this ritual. I'm not justifying it. I shouldn't be justifying it. However, as a filmmaker, I may have my opinion this way or that, which is why if you see the kids in the film, his kids in the film, they're shown as gray. They're not all bad. They have their own requirements. They have their own limitations. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to change this. And that's when, we gave it a little bit of an open ending and said, he's gone again. And when I realized that this was the most, that I had done it right, was it was the first screening in a commercial theater in India, in Tamil Nadu. And it was releasing all over the state in about 200 theaters. And I had gone to watch it with my family and my crew and everything. And I was nervous. My heart was beating a lot louder than the sounds from the screen. I wish people could have heard it. But still, I sat with my family and I sat with my crew. And the entire time, on one hand, I hold my music director, who's a really dear friend. On the other hand, I'm holding my mom's hand. And I'm sure there were like nail marks in their fingers because, that's how strongly I was holding them. And just before the end, I heard so many people from the crowd just, speaking to themselves and saying, I really hope he doesn't die. I really hope he doesn't die. And the moment that I showed that he had ran away, they heaved such a loud sigh of relief and they started clapping and they were excited and they started whistling and screaming at that. And I was like, oh my God, I did it right, And I don't know anything I don't think anything I could say right now would make, would do justice to the feeling I had at that moment. Because it is such an amazing feeling. It's such an adrenaline rush to realize that what you intended for the audience to feel, they have felt.
No, see, we are very thankful to you for doing that. Completely resonated.
It was so
with the
lovely.
audience with the sigh of relief and the clapping. And thank you so much for doing that. And
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Sankhya.
Ma'am,
Marianne,
we have a
question for Madhumita and Vishal. Vishal, you're still here with us, right? Yeah. Go ahead. You have to unmute yourself, Marianne. You have to unmute yourself. Right at the bottom of your screen, just click on the
right there we
button.
go. Yeah, well, I just want to thank you so much for, I had no idea that something like this existed, for one. So it really opened my eyes to the whole thing. And it was just the way the whole story was portrayed. And trust me, when I saw that he had disappeared at the end, I jumped up for joy too. So it really resonated. It really resonated. And the other thing that I thought, the building of that relationship between the two, initially it was slightly antagonistic, especially because it's a little boy, trying to show off. And yet, the fact that they grew so close to each other. And specifically at the end, to me, what was poignant was when the family got together and he asked for the papers to sign off, right? And they're rubbing ink on his thumb so he can get the thumbprint. And he just says, no, give me that. And he writes, signs his name. I mean, that was just so incredible, and even that bucket list that they wrote on the tree trunk, it was amazing. It was just amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing this. Yeah, really.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It means a lot. Thank you.
Lots of questions today. So Amagat has a question. Let me just scroll up and see if I can get him. 1 second. Are you there? Amjit?
Yes,
I think I got the name. You're here.
Yeah.
Sorry, Amjit. Go ahead, ask your question. Are you from calling from tuning in from India?
I'm from Kerala. I'm Kerala, India, Kerala.
From Kerala. Okay, lovely. Go ahead.
I'm not fluent in Tamil and English. Just
No problem. எந்த language தெரியுமோ எனக்கு மலையாளம் கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சம் அறியும்.
Ask in any language and Madhumita will translate your question and then translate. Go ahead, Amjit.
கேரக்டர் எப்படி பில்ட் பண்ணி எடுத்த குட்டி எப்படி பில்ட் பண்ணி எடுத்த அந்த ക്യാരക്ടർ അവളോ എங்களுக்கு കാണികൾക്ക് അത്രയും ഉള്ളിലേക്ക് എത്താൻ പാകത്തിലേക്ക് എങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇത് ബിൽഡ് ചെയ്തെടുത്തത്? Is there is any original characters?
Like I said, originally, like a lot of KD is after my grandfather. Enoda tata avaroda chinna chinna asaivugal, avaroda chinna chinna movements, avaroda chinna chinna gunadhisayangal, all of that is KD. And the K. Balachandar sir, I'm a big fan of K. Balachandar sir and his films and all of that. அது பார்க்கும்போதே அவர் எப்பவுமே ஒரு விஷயம் சொல்லுவாரு. What he says is that எப்பவுமே அவர் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வந்து கதை எழுதுறதை விட கேரக்டர்ஸ் தான் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் எழுதுவாருன்னு. ஸோ கேரக்டர்ஸ் எழுதுனதுக்கு அப்புறம் தான் அவங்கள சுத்தி கேரக்டர்ஸ் கதை வந்து பில்ட் பண்ணுவேன்னு சொல்லுவாரு. ஸோ ஐ திங்க் திஸ் ஃபில்ம் வாஸ் ஆல்சோ தட் வாஸ் த மெத்தட். ஐ ஸ்டார்டட் வித் கேரக்டர்ஸ். KD was after my grandfather. Kutti வந்து exact contrast from KD and அதுலேருந்து build பண்ணது தான் the story. So it's a character driven drama. எப்படி build பண்ண அப்படின்னா it was for me it was little things that the character would do and Kutti was the Kutti கிட்ட வந்து the important thing to get in that was சில சமயம் சின்ன பசங்க வந்து கொஞ்சம் ஓவரா பேசினாங்கன்னா அதிக பிரசங்கி இல்ல வந்து ஓவரா பேசுறான் பாரு அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்கல்ல. So Kuttiya பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் it was important and the balance to get it right. He should not come across as over enthusiastic. He should not come across as too much irritating ஆயிடக்கூடாது அப்படிங்கிறதுக்காக that fine line we kept toning it down. But other than that I think it is a lot what KD and Kutti became on screen and adla vandu Vishal and Moora sir contribute பண்ணது வந்து there's a lot of it. And for those of you, I will say that again in English. So his question was, how did I begin the characters and what was I inspired about the characters? How did I get those characters? Like I mentioned already, KD was a lot about my grandfather, little nuances, his behaviors, his attitudes in life. It came a lot from there. As far as Kutti was concerned, I think the biggest challenge was to ensure, because sometimes when kids speak above and beyond their age, it can become a little irritating. It can become a little too much. And so we were conscious of that and we tried to ensure that every step of the way we would fine tune that to ensure that the childishness was still there in him while at the same time he would just say really things that were above and beyond his age. So yeah, I hope that answered that.
Yeah. That took a lot of skill.
I have one more question. I have one more question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Ma'am, that was the music was very magically executed in this movie. Can you tell about the music directors and how you picked them?
Thank you. Thank you very much. In the Padatoda music director வந்து Karthikeya Murthy. He's a very dear friend and he's worked with me on Mune Munavarthai also. In the Padatoda script நான் எழுதினதுக்கு அப்புறம், because he's a dear friend, him, my husband, they're all very good friends and all of that. In the Padatoda script நான் எழுதின உடனே I sent him the script. அப்போ அவன் என்ன மிரட்டினான், வேற இந்த படத்துக்கு வேற யாராவது என்ன விட்டுட்டு மியூசிக் டைரக்டர் கிட்ட போனீங்கன்னா என்ன பண்ணுவேன் பாரு அப்படின்னு சொல்லி so that, I mean, of course, having said that, he's a very talented music director and of course அவர் கூடயும் நிறைய arguments வந்திருக்கு, நிறைய discussions வந்திருக்கு. But having said that, he always tells me, மது, ஒரு நல்ல ஸ்கிரிப்ட் என்ன அப்படின்னு என்ன பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் அப்படின்னா, நான் ஸ்கிரீன் பிளே படிக்கும் போது வந்து எனக்கு மைண்ட்ல வந்து பேக்ரவுண்ட் ஸ்கோர் வந்து should be forming. அதுதான் நல்ல ஸ்கிரிப்ட் என்ன பொறுத்த வரைக்கும். சோ இந்த படத்துக்கு வந்து ஒரு சீன் ஒரு டயலாகும் எழுதும் போது படிக்கும் போது எனக்கு வந்து I kept hearing background score in my head. So you know, the greatest thing about this film is that ஒரு யூசுவலா நான் நிறைய இன்டர்வியூஸ்ல கூட சொல்லியிருக்கேன், ஒரு நாற்காலினா டைரக்டர்ஸ்க்கு வந்து it is that chair that's really important, that director's chair, because they're on the top of everybody else அப்படின்னு சொல்லும்போது four என்னோட 4 பில்லர்ஸா இருந்தவங்க வந்து, one of course is my music director Karthikeya Murthy, one is Sabrivasan Shanmugam who's my dialogue writer, third is my cameraman Mayendran Kempuraj. It was his first film, he's never shot before, this is his first film, Mayendran. And of course fourth is the editor of this film, who incidentally happens to be my husband also. So the four of them were extremely, அதாவது அவங்க வீட்டு கல்யாணம் மாதிரி they took it up and they put and contributed in this film. Of course இதுல வந்து நான் சொல்றது வந்து technicians மட்டும் தான் நான் சொல்றேன். On screen வந்து ஒரு நடிகரும் they really spent time like it was their film. Let me say that again in English. So the thing is, as far as the music is concerned, Karthikeya Murthy is a music director. He's a really good friend of ours, and he in fact did music for my previous film Mune Mune Varte as well. When I sent the script to him for feedback, he called me and he said, if you he threatened me, he threatened my life, and he said, if you ever go out to anybody else for music for this film, that's the end of our friendship. So out of but jokes apart, he's a really talented music director, and like I said, there are 4 people who behind the scenes who were extremely crucial in the way the film turned out, and that is, the first one is Karthikeya Murthy, the music director. Second one is Mayendran Kempuraj, who's a cinematographer of the film. It's his first film, he's never shot before. And of course the dialogue writer Sabrivasan Shanmugam, and of course the fourth is Vijay Venkatramanan, who's the editor, who also happens to be my husband. Of course on screen each actor contributed just as much, but you know what's really important in a film like this, because it's a really simple film, right? Any technician will try to showcase their talent by trying to show off their skills. But this film is such that it requires the technicians to be subtle and underplay their talent and support the film in any way that they can, rather than trying to show off their skills. And that is a good film. In fact, Vijay, my husband, he always says, you know, when people watch movies in the theater and they go, the editing in that film is fantastic, Vijay says that means the editor in that film has failed. Because if an audience is focusing on the cuts rather than the story that's being told, that means the technician has not supported the film. He has tried to show off his skills. So in that sense, I was very lucky that all these 4 people and the actors on screen, they played into my vision, and to ensure that the story always took precedence over any of their individual talent. And I will forever be grateful for that.
It was fabulous, and the dialogue was just amazing. You had a very good dialogue writer.
Thank you.
Ma'am, can we?
Yes,
thank you.
Someone wants to ask.
A quick follow-up on that. So how much of that dialogue was sort of given to Kuti, and how much of it was his own self?
So I think as far as Kutti is concerned specifically, a lot of it, 99% of it was what we had written, because he's not of that age where he can improvise. But I think a lot of the other characters, they did have the opportunity to improvise. They would run it by me, and if it was okay, then I would kind of, go back to see if that worked better. They had a little more room to improvise, but because Kutti, it was his first film, and he hadn't been in front of camera before, and his experience was limited in that front, he delivered what we had written.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Jay Gotcha has a question for you, and I'm going to ask him too.
Okay.
Jay, please tell us where you're calling from as well. I think you know each other, so.
Yes.
Jay, are you there? Well, maybe
not. Maybe a little later.
Maybe we'll come back a little later.
Ma'am, can you speak?
Yes. Somebody's been asking to speak for a while. Yes.
Ma'am,
yes.
மதுரையில இருந்து மேம். ஆக்சுவலா நீங்க தமிழ்ல என்ன பேசுறீங்க மேம்?
நானும் தமிழ் தாங்க.
தெரியும். சோ நீங்க உங்க சைல்ட்ஹுட் எல்லாமே அப்ராட்ல, இந்தோனேஷியா, அதுக்கப்புறம் ஒர்க் பண்ணது, கிராஃப்ட் கத்துக்கிட்டதெல்லாம் அங்க. சோ நீங்க வந்து இங்க மதுரையில வந்து ரொம்ப எஃபர்ட்லெஸ்ஸா ஒரு படம், அதுவும் நீங்க படத்தை கரெக்ட் எடுத்தீங்க, அது இப்படி நல்லா போய் நல்ல ஒரு ரீச் கிடைச்சிருக்கு மேம். சோ
அதான் இப்ப கொலகொலக முந்திரிக்கா மாதிரி ஒரு மூவி, அப்புறம் இங்க டீப்பா இன்டென்ஸா ஆத்தென்டிக்கா ஒரு மூவி பண்றீங்க. அப்புறம் அடுத்த படம் வந்து ஹிந்தி மூவி பண்ண போறீங்க. எப்படி அந்த நேட்டிவிட்டியை புரிஞ்சுக்கிறீங்க, அந்த பீப்புளோட ஒரு கனெக்ட் எப்படி கொண்டு வர்றீங்க?
முக்கியமா எமோஷன்ஸ். அதுவும்
இப்ப விஜய் சேதுபதி கூட சொல்லிருப்பாரு, நார்த்ல போய் நான் ஒரு படம் பண்ணணும்னா எனக்கு வந்து அந்த பீப்புளோட கனெக்ட் பண்ண முடியாது, அந்த இமோஷன்ஸ் கனெக்ட் பண்றது எனக்கு வந்து அங்க இருந்திருந்தாதான் வரும் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி சொல்றாங்க சில பேர். பட் நீங்க வந்து அங்கேயும் ஒர்க் பண்ண முடியுது உங்களால, பைரேட்ஸ் ஆஃப் த கரேபியன்லயும் ஒர்க் பண்ணிருக்கீங்க. இங்க வந்து ஒரு மூவி டீப்பா இன்டென்ஸா அந்த நேட்டிவிட்டியை புரிஞ்சு ஆத்தென்டிக்கா ஒரு மூவி, அப்புறம் ஹிந்தியும் உங்களால கான்பிடென்ட்டா பண்ண முடியும், நீங்க அடுத்து அங்க மூவ் ஆறீங்க.
இல்ல நீங்க சொல்றதெல்லாம் பார்த்தா ரொம்ப பில்டப் எனக்கு குடுக்குற மாதிரி இருக்கா? அவ்வளவு பில்டப்லாம் இல்ல வேண்டாம். இல்ல பட் இல்ல
நாங்க ஆக்சுவலா ஃப்ரம் மதுரைன்றதுனால
மதுரை கல்லுப்பட்டி மென்ஷன் பண்றப்ப சோ அதனாலதான்
எங்களுக்கு இந்த அளவு எப்படி நம்மளாலே பார்த்து நம்ம ஒரு விஷயம் கண்ணுல தெரிய மாட்டேங்குது, இவ்வளவு டீப்பான விஷயம், ஆனா அவங்க அங்க இருந்து அதை அவ்வளவு அப்சர்வ் பண்ணி பண்றாங்களே.
If I may say so, Madhumita, would you mind answering this first in English and then in Tamil?
Sure. So
okay, we can
I think
English.
Okay,
so you don't have to do
so the question was basically that considering I was born in Chennai, I grew up abroad, and then how am I able to my second film was Kolakolaya Mundrika, which was a comedy film, and then this one was so deep rooted, authentic from there, and then you know, the next one I'm doing is a Hindi film, incidentally. So how am I able to kind of how am I able to relate to the audience? How are the you know, able to relate to the audience? I think that's their question. I wanted to quote one thing that I heard from a very, very popular, very, very experienced, legendary director, Mr. K. Vishwanath. He had come during the audio launch of my film called Moodu Mukkalu Cheppalante, and you know, the one thing he mentioned was, he was talking to me in Telugu. I understood Telugu, but then I can't speak in Telugu, so when he was talking, I said, sorry sir, I will respond in Tamil or English. So then he said he watched the trailer of the film, he saw the film, and then he said, Madhumita, I'll tell you one thing, the language we speak might be different, but then I think emotions are universal. And I think that is a mantra that I have believed as far as filmmaking goes, and I've ensured that that is one thing that is consistent in all my films. And if I may take the liberty to say so, I think the reason I've been even though I grew up abroad, I grew up watching KB Sir's films, Mani Ratnam films, Rishikesh Mukherjee's films. I was a big fan of Sholay, you know, films like that's what we used to watch even though I lived abroad. And in 2007, even though I had an opportunity to continue working in LA, I decided that I wanted to make films in India. I wanted to come back and make films in India. So I think language is really important for you to gain an understanding, and I think that can be done if you just do a little bit of research, if you do a little bit of groundwork, homework, as you call it, and then it is also equally important that you surround yourself with people who are specialists in that. So to answer your question, guys, I think the biggest addition and authenticity, while the script is mine and you know, the story and screenplay is mine, I think what added a lot of authenticity and rootedness is Sabri's dialogue. The dialogue வந்து நான் பேசுற மாதிரி தமிழ், which is a very urban Chennai Tamil, அந்த மாதிரி நான் வந்து எழுதிடுவேன். Then after that, Sabri would come and make it as local and authentic as possible. So I think he contributed a lot. As far as the setting and everything, like I said, I spent at least 6 months to a year talking to people there, understanding the way of life, understanding how this ritual affects them, and I think it's all about homework. And I'm a bit of an OCD. I have obsessive compulsive disorder, like extremely perfectionist, to my husband would know, to such an extent that I don't get into a script unless I'm 100% confident about it. I hope that answered that.
Ma'am,
thank you for your question.
சோ படத்துல வந்து அந்த தாத்தாவும் சரி குட்டியும் சரி அதை தாண்டி அந்த ஜேவிங்கிறவரை எப்படி மேம் அந்த கேரக்டர் நாங்க அவர் சூதுகோம்லயும் சரி பில்லாலையும் சரி வேற மாதிரிதான் அவரை பார்த்தோம். சோ இந்த படத்துல டோட்டலா அவர் டயலாகே ரொம்ப கம்மியா பேசுறாரு. பட் அவர் வரும்போது வந்துட்டாருடா அவரு அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி நமக்கு ஒரு இதாயிடுது. சோ அது உங்களுக்கு எப்படி கரெக்டா அவரை இது பண்ணுன்னு தோணுது?
I think Yog.
The question in English and then just
Sure, I
answer.
will. So basically, what they're asking is, KD and Kutti is great, but Yog, who plays the villain, sort of, who keeps chasing them, who's the investigator. Why did I cast him? Because he's a very popular actor who's done very different kind of films. He's played against many big actors. How did I think of casting him, and why did how did I come up with this character rather? So in the screenplay 101 is basically that, you need to have a ticking bomb. Because it's a character-driven story. When you have a character-driven story that is not plot-driven, then what happens is that audience tend to lose interest after a bit. So you need something that threatens. You need something that kind of keeps them on their toes. And Yog's character was that. And to ensure why we cast Yog in it is Yog is a very good friend, and I wanted to ensure that he had a character that he had never done before. He's a fantastic actor, and I wanted to bring him in that. And he was nice enough to come and do a small budget film like this. I have a very small request. Can everybody else please put mute, because I'm hearing my own voice, so I'm not able to exactly talk. So if everybody else can please mute, so that otherwise I'm hearing my own voice. Thank you. So that was Yog doing that character, and he was nice enough to do it, and I think he pulled it off really well. But it was screenplay 101. When you have the basic of screenwriting is that when you have character driven stories, you need a ticking bomb. You need something that's at stake, and the family looking for him through this villain was that ticking bomb in this story. I hope
Thank
that
you for your question. Thank you. Thank you. I have a question. Menaka. I just want to. Menaka is my daughter. She's asking the question. Menaka, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Do it. I don't know.
Yeah. Hi, Menaka. Oh, he's adorable.
Hi. He's a little bit fussy, so I might have to cut off shortly. But my question was just, I loved the idea of the bucket list, and I loved that Katie had such an extensive bucket list at his age, and I thought it was just, I feel like in our society, everything's always focused on like when you're young and you're in your 20s, that's when you should like accomplish what you want or start your career. And I love that he was trying so many new things on the bucket list at that age. And I loved the theme that was like, kind of like, you can accomplish your goals at any age. So I'm just curious where that kind of came from and how you were writing this script, especially seeing, I'm young myself, but seeing you as a very young director and screenwriter, is very cool to see. And I think that's like an important message we should continue to give to like the younger generation. So just curious where that came from, and I loved that theme.
Thank you. Again, it goes back to my grandfather who was on his deathbed. He was not able to move. He was bedridden, and he asked me, "Will you take me back to Indonesia? Can we go on a trip to Indonesia?" He was already 94 something, and he could barely get out of bed. But then he still had that kind of dream to want to go back to Indonesia because he's visited us many times before. And I think that's where it kind of came, where you realize that older people, they don't necessarily have these things fulfilled. And sometimes the older they get, they have these regrets that they've not been able to do certain things. And when you go back and talk to them about it, you realize that some of those things are so simple, are so like, mundane, that you think, what's the big deal with that? He wanted to watch a cricket match live. That's one of the simplest things you can do in India today. So that's when I got talking to a lot of people in that age, and I realized that a lot of them had such simple things that they wanted to do. So if you see, even Katie's bucket list, it's not extremely unachievable. It's not impossible. It's really simple stuff like wanting to eat biryani. Like, how difficult can that be, right? And it just goes on to say that it's never too late to do what you want to do with your life. So I'm glad that that came across.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question, Menaka. And we have a question from Shweta. Shweta? Shweta Sali, you're there?
Yeah. Hi, Madhumita. I'm Shweta. I live in Cincinnati, but
Oh,
I grew
hi.
up in Chennai. I went to school, college in Chennai.
Oh,
And
nice. How lovely.
yeah, and while I was there, I saw a lot of Tamil movies, but I've been in this country more than 30 years and, I lost track of movies, Tamil movies, but this was so refreshing. I
Thank
mean,
you.
it was amazingly made, and the language, I mean, the dialogues were so beautifully written. So
Thank
kudos
you.
to your director, I mean, to you as a director and your writer,
Thank you.
and also, most of my questions have been answered, so I won't, repeat the questions, but I just want to make a comment on how much I enjoyed the movie. And
Thank you.
also, if you can give us a list of the movies that are available either on Netflix or Amazon that you have directed, that would be great.
I really wish I could, but unfortunately, I made my first film in 2008, and that was before OTT platforms, so they're not available. But I think they're on YouTube, so I will share.
Okay.
But I must warn you, I was 23 when I directed my first feature. I think I've evolved as a filmmaker, as I've learned a lot. So, my first few films will still be quite, I wouldn't say amateurish, but still young. But I think I'm definitely still proud of the ones that I've made. So I'd be happy to share YouTube links.
Okay, great.
Love
Thank you.
to see Abstract Identity, because you won an award for that, and maybe you could tell us where that is, so we can, and what it's about.
It was screened at the Hague Museum in Netherlands. It was a film that I made when I was in Singapore, so that was 2002 or 2003, and the film was about the Indian culture of wearing a bindi. I'm sure people who live outside of India have this questions that I had when I was growing up outside of India. The Indian community and the people around you, the Indians around you, there's a certain bubble that they build about India. And it's a question of every diaspora that's lived outside of India, because the vision that you've been told is India is very different from what India actually is. And I used to do party class, dance class. I used to do all these instruments, and you get, your life gets kind of accustomed to all of that. And one of the things is about how culturally you need to stay connected to India. So when I went to Singapore, in my family and in my home, wearing the bindi was such an important thing. Like I couldn't step out of the house without wearing one. I do understand the cultural significance and the scientific significance and all of that. But then when you're in college, you have the opportunity to kind of question your own identity. And is that really you? Why should you do it? And all of those things. So that short film, it was just a 2-minute. I mean, the condition was that it should be a 1-minute long film, and so it was more of a video art kind of thing, where I questioned the very identity that a bindi gives a woman, depending on where she wears it. If she wears it here, it means something else. If she wears it here, if she doesn't wear it, it means something else. So in that context, it was there. I don't think I myself have a copy of it. Unfortunately, this is times of the VHS, where we used to ship out the tapes to the museums for screening and things like that, even when for submission. Even for film festivals, I remember when I sent it out in VHS, and that was those times. So I don't think I have it digitized, but yeah, if I find a copy, I'll share for sure.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. So we have another question. I'm going to see if Jay is still around to ask his question. Is Jay there? Jay, are you there? Okay, if he isn't, we'll move to Geeta. Hey, Mehan, are you there to ask your question? Geeta? Maybe you have to unmute yourself. Maybe Amit can help. Okay, not there. So I'm going to move, if Geeta Mehan is not there, let me move to Arvind Sathe. You had a comment, and I think Meena Mohan had a comment after that. So let's just move to Arvind. You need to unmute yourself. Yeah, thank you, Arvind.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Thank you. I love the movie. I like movies where you have good characters build up, and in this case, it kind of grew on me. It was fascinating from that perspective. I somewhere along the line lost the context because I'm not a Tamil speaking person, so I was watching through subtitles. Why were they trying to rub ink on his thumb? Was he illiterate?
Because he didn't know how to read or write before. So when he left the house, he was what we call, thumbprint is signature in India a lot of the time, right? So that's the father that they knew. But then Kutti had taught him how to write his own name and how to read. As you see with scenes, he's teaching him how to read and write. So when he comes back home, his kids assume that he's still a kainatu, we say, which means that, fingerprint, who doesn't know, who's still illiterate. But then he kind of, almost quite arrogantly, he says, no, that's not me. And then he signs his own name.
Wow. Yeah, I love the ending, by the way. I have got, right now, my mother-in-law is in terminal cancer situation, and we are
I'm
going
sorry
through
to hear that.
a lot of discussion around those things. And this movie kind of shaped my thinking a little bit on that topic. So you're helping me quite a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That is so profound. Thank you for the question, Arvind. Meena, you had a comment? Meena Mohan and Subhadra, are you both here? Meena, you need to unmute. I think we lost Meena too. Subhadra, are you here? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Rati, I'm here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the Zoom session. I'm really enjoying it and listening to all the explanations Madhumita has been giving, very, very nice.
Thank you. Thank you very
and
much.
Madhumita, I am, as a Tamil speaking person, I'm extremely proud of
the
subject you have taken, to highlight and to bring it to everybody's attention, because this is an ongoing situation for our elders in down south. It's still happening in many places. And thank you for highlighting that. And the characters, they just come alive in front of us. And especially when you sit in in the US and watch, it's like going back home briefly and coming back. So it was really nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Do you have a comment for Kutti, Subhadra?
What,
Vishal?
What, Rati?
You have a comment for Vishal. He's also there.
Oh, hi, Vishal. Vishal, English புரியுமா இல்ல தமிழ்ல சொல்லணுமா?
தமிழ்ல சொல்லுங்க, அவனுக்கு புரியும். தமிழ்ல புரியும்.
விஷால், அருமையா நடிச்ச விஷால். உன்னோட நடிப்பை பார்த்து உன் நடிப்பை பார்த்து நாங்க எல்லாம் பிரமிச்சு போயிட்டோம். ஆமா, ஏன்னா உங்க டைரக்டர் சொல்லியிருக்காங்க, இதுதான் உன்னோட முதல் படம், நீ எப்படி வெட்கப்பட்டுக்கிட்டு நடிக்க வந்த அப்படின்றதையும் சொன்னாங்க. ஆனா அதெல்லாம் ஒண்ணுமே தெரியல. ஸ்கிரீன்ல பாக்குறப்ப அவ்வளோ நல்லா ப்ரொஃபஷனலா ரொம்ப காலம் நடிச்ச மாதிரி ஒரு நல்ல ஆக்டரா நீ நடிச்சிருக்க. ஆமா, நிறைய படங்கள் நீ நடிக்கணும். உன்னை நாங்க பார்த்து நாங்கெல்லாம் சந்தோஷப்படணும்.
Yes. Vishal, do you have another film? என்ன பிளான் நீங்க சொல்லுங்க. Tell us your plans. Vishal, does he have plans for future films?
I think he's done one film now. He's being considered for a lot of films. He was considered for Mr. Rajnikant's film as well. But then I think he's a little selective about what he wants to do next. So then he always him and his mother, they're nice enough. They call me and they ask me, do you think we should do it? Do you think we should not do it? So what is the right way to shape his career? Because his education is equally important. They come from a very conventional family, and they live in Madurai. So his career and his education is equally important. So they do discuss it with me, but eventually it's their decision. He's just not found something that's excited him, I suppose.
11 or 12?
He must be 12 now. Vishal, enna vayasu ipo Vishal? 12 11?
எப்ப மேம்?
இப்போ உனக்கு என்ன வயசுடா?
இன்னும் 8 நாள்ல 14 மேம்.
8 நாள்ல he's turning 14.
He'll be 14.
He's turning 14.
Lovely, lovely. So I don't think Jay is back. Is Jay back?
No, I don't think so.
I do want to ask you, Madhumita, what keeps you up at night? Where do you get your drive from?
I'm a bit of a workaholic, let me tell you that. I love working. I love writing. I love, actually, let me rephrase that. I enjoy making films. The writing process, not so much, but I still enjoy the ideas. I still enjoy the stories. What keeps me up at night is constantly wanting to do better, constantly wanting to tell stories. That's what keeps me up at night. And luckily, I have a family, be it the family that I was born into or the family that I married into. I've been lucky that they've been extremely supportive, because to be in this industry, while you need perseverance, while you need grit, you need arrogance, you need drive, you need all of that. But also one of the most important things you need is a family that's supportive, because we have crazy hours. We can get quite manic when we're doing a film. We can be quite difficult to live with, all of that. The directors are that way, especially. And in that sense, the family has been extremely encouraging and supportive of my endeavors. So I think that way I've been blessed.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. And you have a new film coming up that you've signed on, a Bollywood film, I believe. Do
Yeah.
tell us a bit about it. And
So that's how I know Jay, because Jay is a friend through this new film that we're doing.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I think it was yeah. Yes, I have been signed to do a completely different film. That's one thing that I like about myself, and I like to experiment. That I don't like to do the same genre again and again. So for example, my first one was a divorce drama. My second one was a comedy caper. The third one was a romantic comedy. This one is a slice of life kind of coming of age kind of film. And then the next one is going to be a psychological drama.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so it is I've signed with MA Productions, which is Mr. Nikhil Advani, who's done they produce great films. Mr. Nikhil Advani, of course, Kal Ho Na Ho, he's directed a lot of films, Batla House and all of that. They produced a lot of films like Airlift and Marjava and all of that. It's been a very exciting association just before the lockdown. The great thing is I managed to use this lockdown to finish the script. So the script is ready, and hopefully we will start casting once the lockdown gets lifted. And it's a very exciting time. I'm looking forward to this because this team has been fantastic. Jay is part of MA, and they've been really nice and very welcoming to the Hindi industry.
Oh, wow. So that relationship between you and the dialogue writer, how does it work? Because you have the general script written down, and then, for those of us who are outside the film industry, could you just tell us how that works?
So as far as KD is concerned, Tamil is my mother tongue. But having said that, I think the Tamil that we all speak is quite urban Tamil, it's quite Chennai Tamil, it's quite broken Tamil. It's not the most authentic version of Tamil. And considering the story is set in a very remote part of Tamil Nadu, we wanted to ensure that the authenticity was there. And Sabri himself is not from Madurai. He's from a different part of Tamil Nadu. But I did write all the dialogues in English, and also in Tamil in terms of what the context is supposed to be. And then after that, he would come up with the dialogue options for it. And then we would sit and discuss and decide which was the best version of what I wanted to convey. It added that authenticity while still not, diverging too much away from what I wanted to say. So I think that was the and I think the language there, the humor is also extremely important. The sarcasm and the humor is also equally important in this film. And Rati, I think one of the most important lessons that I learned in LA, and that's filmmaking 101, is that film is one of the most cinema or filmmaking is one of the most collaborative job in the world. Unfortunately, in India, a lot of the times what happens is people are extremely possessive of their content. They're extremely, one lesson that I learned when I was in LA, and that was part of my Pirates of the Caribbean experience, is that you cannot, your ego cannot take precedence. The film is always bigger than everybody else. The film is bigger than me, the director. The film is bigger than the producer. The film is bigger than everybody else. As long as you have a crew that understands that and values that, then you have a good film. Because the problem is, a lot of the time people's ego comes into place. For example, I've even had on my set, I have assistant directors who will come to me and say, ma'am, is this, I mean, that's the kind of director that I am, where I give them the freedom of expression, where they can come up to me and say, ma'am, do you think this shot would be better shot from this angle instead of what I had planned to do? And it's a discussion, right? I may agree with them, I may not agree with them. But having said that, it is my responsibility to at least hear them out, because they are as invested in this film as I am, right? They're spending as much time in it. They're contributing as much as, I think what's important for a lot of people to understand when they're getting into films is that it is the director's vision, but that doesn't mean that other people should not contribute. I think that is the lesson I learned, and that's what I always strive for, to ensure that the team that works with me has the freedom to express. And we have arguments. It's not like we don't. It's not all hunky-dory, especially when you're married to the person who's editing your film. Apart from your marital discussions or difference of opinion, you also have professional difference of opinion, and that's you will have those. But then what's important to realize is that everybody else has the film's best interest in mind, and as long as you have that, then I think it's easier to make a good film.
Correct. Oh my gosh. I mean, you really answered that question so well, because my next question was, was going to be, well, what were the experiences at the Pirates of Caribbean and what did you take away from it? But I think that's wonderful. You really shed a new light on what filmmaking is all about. I think the collaborative process, you're so right. And I hope more directors and folks who lead films kind of figure that out, because I do understand a lot of times ego does come in the way. That was lovely. Thank you so much, Madhumita. This has been such a lovely session.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun as well.
We all related to the film so well, and we just loved the film.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm sorry I kept you much later than now.
No, that's okay. We're night owls anyway.
The discussion was so amazing, and we just kept talking. So I really thank you very much for being here with us. And Kuti, thank you so much, Kuti, for being here.
Rati, can I speak for a minute?
Yes, Meena is back. Okay, Meena.
Oh, she is.
Yeah. Vishal, நீ ரொம்ப நல்லா நடிச்சிருக்க. எனக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிச்சது. And Madhumita, I love the film. Your direction is so amazing. I was thinking that this movie could have been made in any setting, whether it's urban or rural. I mean, some of the things, even though they live in such a rural setting, they seem to be so progressive and so open-minded, unconventional. I mean, just the whole journey of this man leaving his house and exploring, experiences with this young boy. And things like him smoking pot and
that was so funny.
MGR's the scene where he did that, and just things like him leaving the house again with all that uncertainty. He's not going to be able to get back to Kuti because Kuti's pursued, had an opportunity to pursue his education. So for KD to leave his house, without knowing where he's going to go, but he's definitely choosing to go and live his life. I think that's very interesting that, people in a rural setting, even something like him going and meeting Valli, and maybe an old friend or a girlfriend, that was very interesting. And she advised him to let go. And let the younger people live their lives. So all that was very, enlightening in the sense for him as well as for the audience.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoyed it so much.
So, I thought the old man was now going to go to stay with the younger gentleman and his wife, isn't it? Isn't that what you alluded to, Madhumita?
Sorry, say that again.
The gentleman who takes the actor, the actor invites him to come and stay with him and his wife, right?
Not his wife, his mom. Yeah. He says, don't go back to your tent, because they're looking for you. So just come, and I've spoken to mom. So just come and stay with us. That's what he says. But then it's still Katie's decision to still go back to his house. Yeah.
Right, of course. Thank you.
I have a doubt.
Someone has, just
Yeah.
give me a second. Is that Yuvraj?
Yeah. மேம் இப்போ சினிமால அசிஸ்டன்ட் டைரக்டர் ஆகிற ப்ராசஸ் பத்தி எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்றீங்களா?
சினிமா அசிஸ்டன்ட் டைரக்டரா? அசிஸ்டன்ட் டைரக்டர் எம் படத்துலயா இல்ல எனி டைரக்டர்?
ஹாலிவுட்ல அப்புறம் உங்க படத்துலயும் சொல்லுங்க.
In English or do you want it in Tamil?
Yeah. I'm
So
asking
he
about
basically wants to know how to become an assistant director in the film industry. I think one of the best ways for you to do it is, now with mobile phones and everything being so advanced, shoot a film to show your director how good you are and how passionate you are about it. Because when we started making films, the only way for us to learn was to assist a director, work for 10 years, though I did not do any of that, but I studied in film school. I did 6 years of film education. But today, with technology being in your hands and convenient, right? Make a short film, edit it, whatever your story you want to tell. It doesn't have to be very long. It doesn't have to be expensive. It's about how well you can tell a story. I think that is your best visiting card to reach out to any director and ask for an opportunity. And, a lot of directors today, when they are starting a film, they put out social media posts and say, we're looking for assistant directors. So when you apply, send them this film and say, this is how passionate I am about making a film. And because eventually you want to become a director. So show them that you are passionate about what it is you want to do. In my opinion, that's the best way to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, you're breaking up.
Could you give us your name, please? Somebody asking a question. Madhumita, you have many questions. Could you tell me who's speaking? Yuvraj. Okay, go ahead, Yuvraj.
First, I wish Madhumita all the best for all the future.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just need a small clarification. You can help me out.
Sure.
If I'm a writer, kind of, which I do write stories.
Okay.
My concern is how do I convert the stories? How do I pitch the stories? Better someone can direct it or convert it into a movie, something kind of picturizing.
So I think
write
it
stories.
depends. Okay, so it depends what kind of stories you write. Is it for films? Is it for web series? What is it for? Usually you can the first thing I would suggest you do is register your stories. There is SWAN, which is South Indian Writers Association in Chennai. So become a member there, register all your stories so that copyright is not stolen before you submit it to anybody else. After that, reach out to directors and give them a synopsis, send them a synopsis, and then see if they're interested. But then there will be directors who would prefer, there are many directors who would take stories from other writers and direct. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them. I always believe that the idea has to come from me. I feel like more attached to the story that way, which is why I've never, all my stories, the idea, the original screenplay, the original story has come from me. Of course, after that, I've collaborated with other writers to, do a brainstorming session or whatever. That would be the best way. But first, before you do anything, before you send it out, evlo periya director ah irundhalum yaarkitta anupuradhukku munadiyum please register your work.
Is there anywhere I can enroll myself in online as I can get my hello?
Enroll yourself as what?
I can enroll my the draft which I have, the story which I have in online portal somewhere. that I can?
So in Mumbai, the Writers Association has an online portal where all you need to do is just Google and you can become a member. I think they charge something like 5,000 rupees a year for membership, and you can do an online registration, but of all your work. But I think the simplest way, if you don't want to spend that kind of money, the simplest way and the most trustworthy way is, as soon as you finish writing, put your script inside an envelope, seal that envelope, and courier it to yourself. And after it comes back to you via post, not courier, but by Indian registered post, with acknowledgement due. Once you receive it via post again, please do not open that seal. Because you'll have that stamp on it, and don't open that seal. So tomorrow, in case somebody else steals your idea, this is a very good, cheap way to ensure that your script is registered under your name. But other than this, it's always good to additionally register it, either if you're in Chennai, then to be part of the South Indian Writers Association, or if you're in Mumbai, then the SWA, it's called, you can register with them. I hope that's helpful.
So you can help me out with the other concern. Usually I do a draft of once I make a synopsis, then I make into a story, then a screenplay, not a screenplay, just a flow of the story. So usually I do it 2-3 drafts. Recorrect it, go for after a month, again I come back it, after 2 months, again I come back it. If not, sometimes there are some stories which I go back after 6 months. At it, I just delete it entire thing, then I start from scratch. If I read it after 6 months, I feel it seems like much more mature. I think of myself that how my 6 months before, how my thought process was working, how do I think now after reading the same story plot lines again in the present day. So how do we improve the structure over the period of time, or else how many drafts should we do for a story?
Now, 6 வருஷம் screenwriter, you understand Tamil, Yuvraj?
Yeah.
So நான் 6 வருஷம் காலேஜ்ல படிச்சது 5 நிமிஷத்துல பதில் சொல்றீங்க. So screenwriting, what it means, what I was trying to say is, what I learned over 6 years in film school, you're asking me to respond in 5 minutes. I don't think that's possible. I think you evolve as a writer. You evolve by writing more. You evolve practice, just like football, just like any other sport or musical instrument or anything. Writing is also like that. You just have to keep writing, share it with your friends, get feedback from your friends, and then improve yourself. There are courses out there that you can do for screenplay writing, but there are online videos, there are YouTube videos that teach you the basics. So if you do not want to spend the money, those options are always there. But like I said, more than anything else, make films, keep writing, and better your craft. I am still evolving as a writer, so I can't tell you what is the best way to become a writer, because every day I learn, every day I write, I rewrite, I make drafts and drafts and drafts. So I think the only way to get better at it is to keep writing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have last one?
Can you? Why don't you do one thing, Yuvraj? You know my social media accounts. So I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. So because this is more going in depth into screenplays and things like that. Send me a message. I'd be happy to reply.
Thank you, Madhumita. Thank you.
Well, I'm so glad you could answer, Yuvraj, because Yuvraj, those were very important questions, and I'm sure a lot of us who are watching and want to be in films or want to work on scripts, it's been really useful. Thank you for your question, Yuvraj. Thank you so much, Madhumita, for being with us.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I think there were a lot more people who messaged to ask questions. I apologize if I've not been able to get to them.
You did. You answered all of them.
We got all of that. Okay, great.
So all of them, and it was so useful for us to really understand. This is the story behind the story. So for us to understand how you go from script to dialogue and what it takes, to write a good script, which was Yuvraj's question. I mean, I think it was beautiful. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we got to interact. We're always happy to talk about KD. I think it's a film that we're all very proud of, and thank you so much.
And when you come to Cincinnati, you always have a place to visit here. To host you as well. And I want to thank all of you who are here on the screen today. I know several of you left because we have passed our time. But thank you for joining us today. Join us again next Sunday, same time, same Zoom ID, different movie. So yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for doing this, Rati. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Rati. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. See you. Take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Sorry.